It happened on the kind of rainy morning that made the world feel heavier than usual. Gray clouds hung low over the city's skyline, a perfect mirror for the immense crushing weight that had settled in Emily Stanton's heart, her wheelchair a gleaming, expensive piece of machinery that had become her prison, rolled slowly down the long hospital corridor. The wheels squeaked slightly as she moved, a small, lonely sound, a constant, mocking echo of her own shattered dreams. Before we begin this story, if you believe in the profound power of kindness, in the magic of second chances, and in the idea that one ordinary person can change the entire world, please take a moment to like this video. Subscribe to our channel, Kindness Corner, and share it with someone who needs a little bit of light today. Your support helps stories like this reach the hearts that need the most hope. Just 6 short, eternal months ago, Emily Stanton was dancing under the bright, hot stadium lights, the youngest and most brilliant ballet prodigy to ever lead the prestigious New York Academy's Grand Spring performance. Her future was a limitless, shining horizon. But one freak accident, a distracted driver running a red light, a slick, rain-swept road, one single, terrible, screeching moment had stolen everything. Her spine, the doctors had said, with a quiet, clinical finality, was damaged beyond repair. She hadn't walked since, and worse than the paralysis, so much worse, was the profound, suffocating loneliness that had followed. Everyone called her brave. They marveled at her strength. But they didn't see the long, dark, silent nights she spent crying into her pillow until she had no tears left. They didn't see the way she had learned to pretend to be okay, to put on a brave, brittle mask, just to stop her own father from looking at her with that same haunted, helpless expression that broke her heart all over again. Every single time. Her father, Charles Stanton, the billionaire founder and CEO of Stanton Global, was a man who was used to fixing problems. He fixed them with his immense wealth, with his unquestionable power, and with the sheer relentless speed of his ambition. But no amount of his money could buy his daughter her legs back. No amount of his power could even begin to fix her shattered soul. He had hired the very best, the world's most renowned therapists, the most brilliant neurologists, even controversial, experimental experts from foreign countries. He had converted an entire wing of his massive Fifth Avenue mansion into a state-of-the-art private rehabilitation center, filling it with the latest, most advanced medical technology. But nothing had worked. Emily refused to speak most days. She had withdrawn into a deep, silent, and impenetrable shell, haunted by the ghost of the graceful, dancing girl she used to be, and it was breaking him. Not because he cared about the appearances, not because his perfect daughter was now imperfect, but because he had built empires from the dust. He had conquered the world of international finance, and yet he stood utterly, completely, and pathetically powerless in front of his own beloved, suffering child. That's when he made the desperate, last-ditch decision to take her away. Away from the city, away from the noise, away from the sterile hospital beds and the quiet, pitying murmurs of his friends. He took her to a remote and very private recovery retreat, hidden deep in the misty, silent mountains of North Carolina, a place called Healing Storms. It was his last and only hope. The air in the mountains was cleaner, colder, and harsher, in a way that made Emily feel even more fragile, more exposed. The staff at the retreat was kind, but they were also distant, professional. She was just another patient to check off, another therapy routine to follow. Then on the third day, as she was sitting alone in her wheelchair outside one of the wooden cabins, staring out at the distant misty treetops, something happened. A little boy walked up to her. He looked to be no older than 6. He had a constellation of freckles dotted across his cheeks like stardust, and a stubborn little cowlick in his messy brown hair. He stared at her wheelchair for a long, curious moment, not with pity, but with a child's simple, honest fascination. Then he looked up and into her eyes, and, with a brilliant, gap-toothed smile, he spoke. Emily blinked, completely taken aback, unsure of how to respond. She didn't know what to say. So she didn't say anything at all. The little boy then turned. and pointed toward a large, beautiful greenhouse nearby, where a man in worn, faded jeans and a simple, navy blue t-shirt was tending to a row of flowering plants. He looked strong, his hands rough and calloused with labor. But there was something incredibly calm in the way he moved, something grounded, something real. And when he looked up, as if sensing her gaze and noticed her, he smiled. It was not a pitying smile. It was not a doctor's forced professional grin. It was just something gentle, and something profoundly and beautifully human. That night, for the first time in a long time, Emily couldn't sleep. But it wasn't because of the familiar, searing pain in her back. She was used to that. It was because of the little boy's words, "Help me." Who was this man in the garden? This man who smelled of earth and rain, who seemed to understand a grief that all the world's best, most expensive doctors could not. For the first time in 6 long, dark, and silent months, a flicker of something other than despair, a tiny, fragile spark of genuine curiosity had taken root in her heart. The next morning, a man from the garden approached while she was sketching. He didn't ask her what she was drawing. He didn't ask her why she looked so angry. He didn't offer any of the empty, cheerful platitudes that all the other therapists and doctors had. Instead, he simply knelt down slowly, a gesture of profound and unexpected respect, and offered her a small, perfect wildflower he had just picked from the garden, and then he simply walked away. His name, she would later learn, was Adam Miller. He was a single dad, a man who had once been a brilliant, highly sought-after physical therapist at a major metropolitan hospital, until his own wife's sudden tragic death 2 years ago had led him to walk away from it all. He had moved to these remote, silent mountains to raise his young son, Leo, in peace, away from the noise and the pain of his old life. When he wasn't volunteering his time at healing storms, he taught survival skills to troubled teens and grew rare medicinal herbs in his greenhouse. But what no one, not even the staff at the retreat, fully knew was that Adam had a gift. A profound, almost mystical ability to connect with his patients on a deep emotional level, long before he ever asked them to move a single muscle. He didn't treat the injury, he treated the person. It took Emily weeks to let him near her. She fought him with a cold, hard silence. She fought him with a sharp, cutting sarcasm. She fought him with slammed doors. But Adam didn't push. He just waited. He would sit on the grass near her deck while she painted, not speaking, just sharing the quiet space with her. He would bring his son Leo to work in the small garden just outside her cabin. Their soft, happy laughter, a gentle, constant presence in her lonely world. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the thick, icy walls she had so carefully built around her heart began to thaw. She found herself, against her own will, talking to him. First, just a single, grudging word, then a full sentence. And then, one day, she found herself laughing, a real, genuine, and almost forgotten sound. And then, finally, one quiet, rainy afternoon, she found herself crying, telling him everything, pouring out all the pain, all the grief, all the rage that she had kept locked away for so long. And he just listened, his presence a calm, steady anchor in the storm of her emotions. She didn't respond, but for the first time, she didn't look away either. Later that week, she finally, and with a terror that was almost paralyzing, agreed to let him try something new, something unconventional. He designed a therapy that was not centered around cold, sterile machines, but around the warm, living power of memory. He said he wanted to remind her body of what it used to love, of what it still, deep down, remembered. What followed was a process that was painful, agonizing, and unbearably slow. But something was different. For the first time, she didn't feel like a patient, a broken thing to be fixed. She felt like a person again. And then, one morning, for the very first time in 6 long, dark, and hopeless months, as Adam gently, and with an almost impossible strength, supported her waist and said, "Let's just try to stand together." Her legs didn't scream in a hot, agonizing protest. They trembled. Yes, they shook with a violent, terrifying weakness. But they did not give out. She didn't walk that day, but she stood. For 3 short, miraculous seconds, she stood. And she wept, not out of pain, but out of a brilliant, blinding, and long-forgotten hope. Charles Stanton didn't understand it at first. He had hired dozens of the world's most renowned and most expensive medical professionals. He had spent millions of dollars on the latest, most advanced rehabilitation technology. And now, this ordinary man, this quiet, unassuming volunteer from the middle of nowhere, had accomplished what none of them could. He was skeptical. He was guarded. And he was, if he was being honest with himself, more than a little intimidated. He found Adam outside the therapy cabin, calmly tending to a small herb garden. And that was the day that Charles Stanton, a man who had built his entire life on the foundations of control and power, finally, and with a profound and very painful humility, let go. He finally let someone else in. The progress was slow, excruciatingly slow. Some days Emily regressed, the pain and the frustration overwhelming her, sending her back into the dark, silent shell of her grief. Other days she surprised herself, her body remembering in small, almost imperceptible ways the strength and the grace it had once possessed, and always, always Adam was there, not with commands, not with a clinical professional distance, but with a quiet, unwavering calm. He never once promised her that she would walk again. He only promised her that she would not have to face the battle alone. And sometimes she was beginning to realize that was more than enough. If this story has touched your heart, please don't leave without liking this video, subscribing to our channel, Kindness Corner, and sharing it with someone who needs a little bit of hope today. Your engagement helps us to keep spreading these powerful stories that heal. We would love to hear from you. Please comment below and let us know what part of this incredible story moved you the most. Your words, your stories, they help us too. Bring more kindness into the world. Would you like me to continue this story into a part 2? Perhaps showing what happens when Emily, now healed, decides to help others just like her?